She is never truly alone. Behind that glowing screen, behind the brief silence between her replies, is a line of men, each waiting, each hoping. 10, 20, maybe 100. Some with money to burn and smiles rehearsed in the mirror. Others sculpted by time and iron, armed with charm and confidence. Each comes bearing an offering. Their best self, their best joke, their best effort. And then there is you. No riches, no polished lines, no armor made of status. But none of that matters, because the game she plays is not one with appearances. Machiavelli would have nodded, not at the loudest suitor, but at the quiet force that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. He knew that power is not about being the best. It's about being the one she cannot erase. You could try to stand out, compete, send her gifts, write her messages soaked in intention, dedicate love songs she may never listen to. But every attempt to rise above the crowd only sinks you deeper into it, because she does not measure with logic. She moves by instinct. She feels your need before you speak it. She catches the tremble behind your confidence, the subtle question behind your smile. Am I enough? And that is where it dies. Not in what you said, but in what you silently confessed, your craving for approval. Women do not choose with reason. They sense before they decide. And every man reshaping himself to fit what he imagines she wants becomes forgettable. A replica of a replica. There is no room for 10 of the same. She only remembers the one who refused to edit himself. But there is another path, not paved with tricks or scripted moves, but grounded in something deeper. Psychology, perception, restraint, and strategic silence. Machiavelli spoke of empires, of thrones and conquest. But were he alive today, he would be here, teaching men how to win in a far more complex arena, a woman's emotional attention in a world where she can swipe her way into 1,000 affirmations. Because what moves her heart is the same thing that crowns a king, the hunger for what cannot be possessed, the obsession with what cannot be read, the fire that only mystery ignites. This is not seduction as the masses know it. This is for the 10% who dare to dismantle the rules. If you're searching for shortcuts, turn away. But if you are ready to become the man who doesn't need to impress, who does not chase but commands the emotional terrain, listen closely. The men who fight for her affection have already lost. Not for lack of beauty or wealth, but because they believe desire is something you win with effort. And the harder they try, the further she slips. Because desire does not bloom where effort is visible. It blooms in the shadows of mystery. One man sends a text every morning, another crafts the perfect joke. The next offers a dinner invitation with soft flattery. Different faces, identical strategies. And so she groups them. Men who are always available. Men whose value drops with every eager message. Men who, despite all they offer, feel replaceable. Because what is easily accessed, no matter how luxurious, becomes ordinary. And what is ordinary disappears. Machiavelli understood this. Generosity without restraint invites contempt. Predictability, in this game, is death. Each quick reply, each desperate compliment, every attempt to stay close, screams the same silent truth. I need you more than you need me. And that, brother, is where attraction crumbles. Imagine you're interviewing someone for a role of high importance. One candidate walks in and pleads, "I'll do anything, just give me a chance." Does that stir confidence or pity? True confidence, like true power, announces nothing. It is sensed. And this is what the others never learn. Their obsession with being chosen blinds them to what really matters. A woman does not fall for the man who tries the hardest. She falls for the one who makes her feel what no one else can name. That unnamed feeling, mystery, tension, emotional dissonance, arises not from what you do, but from what you choose not to do. You do not chase. You do not justify. You do not perform. Because you understand. Desire is born in the pause, in the uncertainty, in the emotional distance that makes her reach, not retreat. You do not vanish to play games. You vanish because your life already has gravity. And when she senses that, when she feels you are not orbiting around her, but pulled by your own force, she begins to ask, why doesn't he chase like the others? Why doesn't he respond instantly? Why doesn't he try to win me? And in that confusion, a door opens. Curiosity, then focus. And focus is the ignition of all true desire. While they wait for her, you move differently. You create mystery. You observe in silence while they expose their emotions too easily. You choose when to show up. That is not arrogance. That is emotional chess. It is the architecture of power without noise. It is the energy that separates a lover from a phenomenon. And that separation defines who is remembered and who is replaced. Look closely at the men women truly crave. It is rarely the most attractive or the wealthiest. It is the one who does not need to prove anything. The one who enters a room without seeking eyes, and yet the air shifts. That stillness, that calm, it's not a tactic. It's the residue of inner clarity, emotional self-mastery, and a full life. She feels it long before you speak. While the others try to meet her ideals, you challenge them. While they bend to please, you move with intention. While they hope to be chosen, you are already choosing where your energy goes. Machiavelli would have written it differently. He would have said, the man who wins is not the one who plays the game well, but the one who alters it entirely. And while they line up to be seen, you do the unthinkable. You walk away from the line, and in doing so, you rewrite the script. She is used to men who respond instantly, who ask about her every mood, who apologize for being themselves. But you bring none of that. And that absence becomes your greatest presence. Because the killer of attraction is not lack of empathy, it is predictability. When she can anticipate your every move, the dance dies. And you do not dance on command. You move with intention. When you stop playing her game, everything shifts. The rhythm collapses. She feels it in her body. A sudden discomfort. Not pain, not fear, but a kind of unknown question growing in her. Who is he? Why can I not read him? What does he know that the others do not? You are not withholding out of arrogance. You are simply no longer acting from need. You are a presence, not a performance. A mystery, not a mirror. And that is what pulls her in. Not because you tried harder, but because you broke the pattern. You became the unexpected variable in a formula she thought she had mastered. She knows when the others will text. She can feel when they'll call. But you operate on a different clock, a rhythm of your own. And that rhythm, rooted in emotional self-command, creates a gravity far more intoxicating than any sweet word or gift. You do not send a dozen messages to remind her you exist. You let the silence speak, and in that silence, she hears something none of the others ever told her. He is not here to impress me. He is here to be himself. And that self, untouched by my approval, is what fascinates me. Because she has heard all the lines. She has seen the same efforts recycled in new faces. But you are not here to earn attention. You are here to reflect something back to her that no one else dared to. You do not validate endlessly. You awaken. You challenge her narrative. You interrupt the autopilot of her emotional life. And in that disruption, you create something unforgettable. The man she remembers is not the one who gave the most. It's the one who stirred her soul. Because the brain does not keep what is calm. It preserves what is electric. It remembers extremes, not neutrality. So you don't need to be perfect. You need to be unforgettable. And that only happens when you bypass logic and reach into the emotional core. You don't say what she expects. You say what stops her breath. Not to manipulate, but because you are present. You see her not as a conquest, but as a mirror. While others call her beautiful, you say, "There's something about the way you hold your silence that's unsettling, and I love that." Because you are not looking at the mask. You're watching the person behind it. And for the first time, she feels seen beyond the surface. That's how you make her think of you, not when you're around, but long after you've left. When a song plays, when a scent returns, when a thought echoes and she wonders, "Why am I thinking of him again?" It's not logic. It's emotional anchoring. The science of becoming tied to a feeling so strong her mind cannot separate the emotion from its source. You. Every time she feels it again, you reappear, like smoke, like memory, like gravity. The others cling. You disappear and linger. But even this is only the beginning, because true seduction does not stop at presence. It evolves into transformation. If a woman feels that, in your company, she accesses a part of herself that no one else ever reached, then you are no longer just a man. You become a threshold, a turning point, a moment that divides her past from her present. And that is the most dangerous form of power. Not possession, but influence. Not control, but transformation. You don't just stay in her memory. You rewire it. You become her new emotional standard. After you, the others are not less attractive. They're irrelevant. Not because they failed, but because they simply do not reach that depth. Most men will offer her affection, gifts, validation. You offered her a vision, a mirror that reflected back the parts of her she had long buried or never dared to explore. You don't exist in her life like a guest. You exist like a force, subtle, permanent. And she may never say it out loud, but she will feel it every time she meets someone new. That haunting sense that no one else quite measures up. No one else creates that emotional electricity. No one else shakes her into presence. It's not poetry, it's neuroscience. Her brain remembers not what you did, but how you made her feel. Studies prove it. When a woman processes desire, her brain lights up not in the visual centers, but in the areas of emotional memory. The amygdala, the hippocampus, emotion, not appearance, governs her attraction. That's why the same man can evoke nothing in one woman and ignite fire in another. It is never about what she sees, it is about what she feels. Now here's the first psychological key. Emotional intensity and unpredictability must coexist for real desire to emerge. If she knows when you will text, what you will say, and how you will react, you have already lost. Emotional flatness is the death of feminine attraction. She wants to feel, not just be reassured. She wants to explore, not just be comforted. And if you give her only safety, you will never stir her core. This is the fatal flaw of the nice guy. He is kind, yes, but he is predictable. He creates calm but not emotional movement. He becomes her friend, her fallback, but never her obsession. Because obsession is not born in safety, it is born in tension. Not chaos, but calibrated mystery. The man who understands this does not play hot and cold. He plays real. He balances intensity with absence, warmth with restraint, and in doing so, he activates something most men never touch: emotional anticipation. And here comes the second truth. According to attachment theory, the strongest emotional bonds are not formed with the one who gives the most, but with the one who regulates his availability with intention. That doesn't mean disappearing to cause pain. It means understanding rhythm. Just like music needs silence between the notes, attraction needs moments of uncertainty. Without space, there is no desire. When you are always present, always giving, always available, the brain stops releasing dopamine. But introduce uncertainty, deliberately, calmly, and the anticipation becomes addictive. And that, my brother, is not manipulation. It is biology. It is understanding how the mind functions. The dopamine hit of your presence is strongest when it follows silence, when your attention is not constant, but earned. And when you finally speak after holding back, your words don't just land, they pierce. Not because you raised your voice, but because she waited to hear them. Emotional power is not about volume, it is about timing. The third truth is even sharper. She does not remember what you did. She remembers how she felt about herself when she was with you. If you make her feel more alive, more awakened, more connected to her raw self, then you become unforgettable. She begins to associate you not with romance, but with self-discovery. And that bond is unbreakable. You are not the one who gave the most. You are the one who made her feel the most, the one who reintroduced her to herself. This is where the others fall away. They chase her approval. You reflect her essence. They offer safety. You offer insight. They try to impress. You awaken. And because of that, you stand in a category of your own, not as the 10th option, but as the man she never expected. The man who became a part of her internal architecture. You're no longer trying to enter her life. You've already entered her memory. Here lies another psychological treasure. The brain does not separate imagination from memory very well. That's why a dream can haunt us. That's why a fantasy can feel real. So when you make her imagine you, when you plant the seeds of future moments in her mind, you've already begun to live in her neural pathways, not as a man who was there, but as a man who is felt, visually, emotionally, sensorially. And that is a kind of presence that outlives your actual time together. Machiavelli said that intelligence conquers fortresses more effectively than brute force, and nowhere is that more true than here. While the world believes seduction is about entertainment, you now know it is about emotional impact, about making her feel something that cannot be replicated, something rare, something that echoes. This is why you don't compete. You don't need to, because competition implies scarcity of value. But when you are the source of a feeling she cannot find elsewhere, you are no longer just a man. You are a sensation. And that cannot be replaced, no matter how many others come. No matter how many smile or flatter or try to replicate your presence, they will always fall short. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real, rare, emotionally sovereign. You do not explain who you are. You embody it. You do not beg to be seen. You radiate. You do not try to fit in. You make her wonder where you come from. And that is what marks a woman for life. That is what causes her to revisit old messages, to play your words in her head like songs she didn't know she loved, to feel a sudden chill when your name is spoken. She will never say it. Not to you. Maybe not even to herself. But she knows. You were different. You disrupted her world in a way she never anticipated. And even if she walks away, even if she loves another, there is a part of her that remains shaped by you. You created the contrast, and after contrast, there is no going back. That is the true essence of seduction. Not dominance, not flattery, not manipulation. It is the unshakable calm of a man who knows who he is, who doesn't need to stay to feel whole, who leaves not with anger, but with peace. And it is that peace that terrifies her, because she realizes, without being told, that she cannot control you. She can only feel you, long after you're gone. The man who chooses himself first is the man who is chosen, not by force, but by gravity. He becomes unforgettable, not by perfection, but by presence. And here is the brutal paradox. The man most willing to walk away is always the one who ends up staying the longest, because he doesn't stay out of need. He stays by choice, and that choice is what gives his presence weight. He does not try to be irreplaceable. He becomes irreplaceable by living with standards, not desperation. When plans are cancelled, he does not react. When messages go unanswered, he does not chase. When her energy shifts, he does not scramble to restore balance. He reflects what he receives. He moves with clarity. And in doing so, he forces the world around him to either rise or fall. But he never lowers himself. He does not seek closure. He is closure. He does not beg to be remembered. He becomes unforgettable through emotional architecture, through moments that hit harder in silence than 1,000 words ever could. That is how she thinks of you when you're gone. That is how she begins to realize. You are not someone who wanted her approval. You are someone who gave her perspective. And the rest, they will fight to be near. But you? You are already etched in her nervous system, because when a man leaves an imprint on the soul, no one can erase him, not even time. She may try to forget, distract herself, chase new beginnings, but none of them carry your silence. None of them speak with your gaze. None of them hold the kind of presence that makes her question herself in the middle of the night. You did not dominate her life. You slipped into her memory and stayed, not because you insisted, but because your absence speaks louder than their presence. And that is the highest level of power, emotional gravity, the kind that reshapes how she experiences other men, not by what you gave, but by what you awakened. The others say what she wants to hear. You say what she never dared to confront. You became a reference point, a moment in her life where everything before you felt shallow, and everything after you feels like a failed attempt to recreate the storm you left behind. That's why the man who walks away without noise commands more fear than the man who screams, because his silence isn't passive, it's deliberate. It signals to her, I do not need to be here, and still I was. I do not beg to remain. I only stay where I am valued. And the moment that value vanishes, I vanish too. Not with bitterness, not with vengeance, but with peace. And it is that peace that haunts her, because it's the kind she thought only she possessed. Until you showed her she's not the only one who can leave quietly. Most men confuse persistence with power. They believe staying no matter what earns loyalty. But in reality, it earns invisibility. Because what is always there loses its edge. The man who can leave, fully, calmly, without turning back, is the man she cannot forget. He doesn't punish. He doesn't explain. He simply exits. And in that exit, he teaches her something no romantic gesture ever could. I choose me. Machiavelli once said, "He who depends on another's will can never govern his own destiny." That truth echoes even louder in the emotional battlefield. If your peace depends on her affection, your power is already gone. But if your peace remains untouchable, if your mood, your movement, your identity stay grounded no matter what she says or does, then you've stepped into a realm few ever reach, the realm of the emotionally untouchable. You are not here to convince. You are here to evaluate. You don't ask to be loved. You watch who offers it freely. You are not a beggar at the gates of affection. You are the gate, and those who wish to enter must meet your standard. If they do not, you do not lower the bar. You close the door, not with arrogance, but with respect for your own energy. Because emotional discipline is not coldness. It is warmth with structure. It is kindness with boundaries. It is love that never kneels to be received. It stands, tall and still. You know now that attraction has nothing to do with proving yourself. It has everything to do with how you carry yourself when there's nothing to gain, how you respond when things don't go your way. That is where she sees your real self, not when everything flows, but when she pulls away, when she tests, when she tries to tilt your balance. And you don't flinch, you don't chase, you don't rewrite your day around her delay. You let her drift. Because if she cannot match your energy, she does not deserve your presence. The world will tell you to try harder, to keep showing her that you care. But what they don't understand is this. True care does not scream louder. It moves with depth, and sometimes it walks away in silence to preserve its dignity. Your silence is not a punishment, it is a message. I will not compete. I will not plead. I will not overextend. Because my presence is a privilege, not a negotiation. That clarity creates pressure. That pressure creates awareness, and awareness creates attraction. The others flood her with attention. You flood her with meaning. The others are constant. You are rare, and in a world drowning in noise, rarity is value. Most men will never reach this level. They will keep lowering themselves, hoping for love in return. But you have risen above that. You understand that love given without self-respect is not love. It's need, and need is never attractive. It repels, while self-respect draws her in. Because in the end, what every woman truly desires is a man who does not crumble in her presence, a man who does not melt at her smile or chase at her withdrawal, but one who remains still, certain, immovable. That certainty does not come from pride. It comes from knowing who you are without her. And when she sees that, when she feels that you could walk away without hesitation, her entire emotional script collapses. She is used to reactions. You give none. She is used to effort. You offer presence. She is used to control. You are the anomaly she cannot shape. And that becomes your weapon. Not aggression, not manipulation, but stillness. Stillness is your strength, because while others panic when she pulls back, you stand. You don't ask what went wrong. You don't try to fix what isn't yours to fix. You don't make noise hoping to be noticed. You allow your absence to do what your words never could. Teach her the value of your presence. Teach her that peace cannot be demanded. It must be deserved. And when she realizes what she lost, when the weight of your silence settles into her bones, it's already too late. You are not coming back, not because you hate her, but because you love yourself more. You gave her the chance to meet you at your level. She chose not to, and now you choose you. There is no greater power than that, because most men wait to be chosen. You wait to see if someone is worthy of choosing. Most men attach their worth to how much they're wanted. You attach your worth to how much you respect yourself. And in doing so, you become magnetic, not to every woman, but to the one who has the emotional maturity to recognize what you are. The man who does not seek attention. The man who does not chase love. The man who does not explain his worth. That man becomes the reference point. the one who leaves behind not flowers or letters, but an imprint. She may never tell her friends. She may never even speak your name again, but late at night, when the room is quiet and her heart is unsettled, she'll remember you. Not because of what you said, but because of what she felt, and still feels, in your silence. And that is the final truth. You do not need to be loud to be unforgettable. You do not need to be perfect to be irreplaceable. You only need to be grounded, real, whole. You only need to choose yourself fully, because when you do, you become more than a man. You become a standard. And that, my brother, is something no one can replicate. You are no longer part of the crowd. You are the silence after the music, the calm after the chaos, the feeling she cannot name, but cannot forget.